what was the significance of Jackson's stance regarding the second bank of the U.S.?
Yeah, so the bank war, Jackson's fight against the Second National Bank and its president, Nicholas Biddle, is really one of the pivotal events, particularly of his second term. His first term is entrenched in the nullification crisis, and there's a sex scandal, the Eaton affair, that Jackson's involved in for about 2 years. Not personally, a sex scandal involving him personally, but one of his cabinet members. He's dealing with Indian removal, which continues into his second term. So the bank war really becomes the focus of his second term. And the significance is that Jackson believed that the National Bank had used its money. So the National Bank was a partly funded by private funds, but then also by federal funds, by government funds. And Jackson believed that Nicholas Biddle, the president of the bank, had used the bank's money against him in the 1828 election, that Nicholas Biddle had used taxpayer money to try to help John Quincy Adams defeat Jackson in 1828. And that really serves as the core of Jackson's argument against the bank. Now, he extrapolates from there and talks about, the bank has acquired too much power, that the bank is pitting Americans against one another socioeconomically, the upper class versus the lower class. He says essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the bank is serving almost as a separate arm of the government, as a separate branch of the government. And so Jackson sees himself as president, as the direct representative of the people. He sees himself as someone who is protecting the people from this, as he calls it, hydra of corruption. That is trying to, once again, subvert the will of the people. And so his focus on the bank is finding ways to limit the bank's power within his powers as chief executive of the United States. And he's pretty successful at it during his second term. He removes the government's deposits from the bank, which he thinks will weaken it substantially. Nicholas Biddle, the bank president, responds by creating some economic turmoil, calling in loans, which creates sort of an economic recession. And this leads to Jackson being censored by the Senate. So he's not impeached, but he's sort of given this slap on the wrist, chastised for overextending his authority as president. And it really causes a lot of turmoil, both for Jackson and for his successor, Martin Van Buren, as Van Buren comes into the presidency. So anyway, it's a very pivotal moment in Jackson's presidency, and it speaks to this expansion of the president's power. And that it's interesting because Jackson is someone who's pretty strongly a states' rights advocate, someone who throughout his career before the presidency talks about limited government. It's sort of ironic that as president, he does more than anyone up to that point as president to expand the authority of his office.